Welcome to the Lew Perspective. Hey, John, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good here. We're going to have another episode of our movie review here.
Movies part 2.
Yes, that's
oh my gosh.
For
some reason, that just reminded me of, you remember the movie Hot Shots?
Yeah, I remember
Charlie Sheen and
yes.
Hot Shots part 2. Duh.
That's what it's going to be right here. Yeah.
Oh my God, sorry, I just remember.
So anyways, you got a list of movies. I've got some movies here that we're going to talk about. So.
We got I know
what was the last time? Do you remember what we talked about last time?
We ended with, I ended with like the Harry Potter series, Matrix. So we didn't really get into that a lot, but the Harry Potter series, as a lot of people my age.
Do you remember how many movies there were in that?
Let's see.
Like it was 5 or 6 or something, or was
7
it
or 8 maybe?
Yeah.
It started in like 2001.
Okay.
I think. Maybe it was earlier than that? 90? Was it in the 90s? No, the books were in the 90s. I think it was in 2000 or 2001 it came out.
It was early, I think it was.
And then, I think the last one I want to say was in 2011? 2012?
Maybe in
10
that.
years?
I mean, it's kind of crazy because when you start to think about it,
they were kids.
Yeah, I mean,
they were like little
everybody.
Kids.
Yeah, they grew up and they changed.
Maybe 8 or 9 then.
It could have been.
I don't know.
I mean, just in the start of it, but
name them off.
there was quite a few of them.
It was quite a few. Yeah, I don't know, 8.
Okay.
Well, anyway, we'll check it out. I'm sure.
We were thinking about that, and the movies had a lot of details in them.
They did.
But a lot of times you'd hear people say that the books were more adventurous in a sense, and better in that regard.
Yeah.
But
which you usually get anyway. Like it's always typically the same, right? Everyone always says
because you get more detail and
more details. You're not constrained to an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever.
Right. So
you can tell a whole story.
But I thought what was most amazing about that was the fact that she had this incredible, vision for
the whole world that she created in her head,
right,
and put on a paper, and
it was just it captivated the audience just in reading the book. So of course, by the time that it hit the movie screens, you caught the audience.
Yeah, it was already buzz.
Yeah,
big buzz about
totally that. And I think that was kind of one of the things, too, that sort of blocked it in the very beginning because she had shopped it around and nobody was interested in doing the series. And I think it was this one small publisher. He read it and was captivated by it and said, okay, he was going to do this. Yeah. And then after that, the rest of it was history.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
And here she was. She was a writer who basically created this while riding, I believe, the train or something or the bus or something like that to her job or wherever she was working at that time. Right. And writing this book right here.
I think if I remember correctly, single mom, right? Like doing all that, not, didn't have a lot of finance and then
suddenly all of a sudden there's
all of this in her head. So I remember the buzz on this when the first movie came out. So I didn't know much about it when the first movie came out. Right. Because I wasn't into the books, but I remember I was working at a pizza shop, delivering pizzas, and then it was coming out, the first movie, and one of the coworkers, I think his mom went to a promotion for the book and the movie. He came back with like the spectacles that Harry wears, and I'm like, what is that? Like, he's like, oh, yeah, it's Harry Potter. It's like, this is the biggest thing ever. I'm like, I don't know what that is. And then the movie came out, and then I watched it. And I was
like, you imagine that? And then after that, it was like the next movie, and the next movie, and the next movie, and the next movie. The audience captivated.
And all the way too. I have all the books. I've read all the books many times, and it was amazing. So that was it, right? And that movie comes on. Those movies come on so often now,
and you still can watch it.
Yeah, and anybody can watch them now. Yeah. So there's a whole new generation of people that are probably just getting into it.
They were thinking about rehashing that or something.
Yeah, I think they're rebooting that whole thing.
So then they come out and
with new new cast, obviously.
Did they do a spinoff on that movie? I thought they did something. What was it? Monsters, creatures, or something?
Yeah, it was the prequel with Dumbledore. Okay. What is it called? Oh my gosh!
I was trying to remember the name
of it. On the movie. It's always on TV too. Okay. Cool creatures and where to find them.
Right, something like that. Yeah.
There was
we were sort of thinking of that.
Fantastic Beasts.
Okay,
that's
okay.
Fantastic Beasts. That was it. 2 of them. Yeah. So they did all that, and then I think there was another book that came out afterward. After the series was written, I cannot remember the name of it, but I bought that book.
Was it by her or was
it was by her?
Okay.
And it was about, what was it, the daughter or the
I didn't
somebody
know this
of
one.
Was it Malfoy? I can't remember.
So it was a book or was it? It was movie?
A book.
Okay,
it was a book, but it never. I don't think they've ever done this one again as a. It didn't do it as a movie, but.
Just do it.
I have the book somewhere. Okay. Gotta look it up again. I'll
was
look
it
up and see.
As intense of
was reading? It a play? God, was it a play? It was a play. I think it was a play.
Okay.
But
and it was created by her.
Yeah, it was her. Okay. It was like, I want to say it was one of the offspring of somebody who they thought they were.
Okay. Well, what we were talking about is J.K. Rowling's.
Yeah.
And so we kept saying her, and so I thought, well, let's just identify, who she is, the author of that. Yeah. So, what other movie now did you have on?
Okay, so I had that, and then I've got the Marvel movies.
Okay, that was a series. That was a whole
Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, so what movie in the first one did you think?
Man, so what I wrote down was the two lasting, the end one. So Infinity Wars, Endgame. Okay. Those two were awesome, right? Because they kind of connected all the dots with everyone, with all the whole universe, I guess, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU. So that kind of connected the dots, and then it really showed that whole, the good versus evil, but it also showed that I think for Infinity Wars, they lost, right? Okay. Where they had the snap and everyone, was gone for 5 years. So it showed that piece, which was cool. So they don't always win.
Following of those.
The guys don't always win, I guess was the point too. But then they eventually won in the end, but sacrifices had to be made. So that was cool. Black Panther was another one I put down, which was amazing.
That was totally, it was mesmerizing because you end up watching it again and you could watch it again. And there's so much great. The detail, great. Everything that was in it. Yeah.
Rest in peace, right? Obviously he wasn't able to be in the second one, but
I think it was sort of like disappointed when and saddened by the fact of his passing.
Yeah.
And it was reading a little bit about him, and that is that even during this filming, he was battling his affliction at that time, and still he managed to muscle up. Yes,
you can see it too. He got, just this whole
demeanor, and that's what
he was big. Like in Black Panther, he was ripped. And then he kind of shrunk down. Every other time you started seeing that,
and I think in the second one right there, I think when it came out or so, I think it was right after that. I think he passed, but he muscled through that one, and you could see sort of the I guess the wear and tear on him that he was battling, and that was it right there. So it was kind of really sad.
Thinking of another movie just with him, Chadwick, was 42.
Yes,
the Jackie Robinson movie.
That
was the one I really got to know him as an actor.
Yeah. Okay.
And of course, it's a great story with Jackie Robinson, right? Because that's amazing.
It was a performance. I mean, that he made of that and really followed through that. I mean, it was tough at times to watch certain things on that. So if you haven't seen it, 42
was a really good movie.
Yes.
Yeah, that one. So just thinking.
Was that on your list?
No, but just thinking.
Just sprung off into that. Okay.
As an actor, he was. That's where I saw him first, I think. And I'm sure he's got other movies.
Yes,
but 42 was the one I was like, oh shoot, that was good, and that's when
I think the Marvel sort of Black Panther just sort of elevated him to, even though he had been in other movies and I've seen him in other performances, but this was sort of one of those where I think it etched him in the stonework walls of the mind. Yeah, absolutely. So I thought that was good. Okay.
Yeah, so that was great. So that's what I had for those. Other movies for me, when I was young, I watched a lot of Transformers on TV, cartoons.
Any particular actors in that you could identify? It didn't really focus on that.
Yeah, it was just about
the mechanics of Transformers, and the detail, and the
when those movies came out, one, all action packed, right? I'm not saying those are great scripts or anything,
right?
But just brought me back to my childhood.
Okay.
Saying, oh, shoot, Optimus Prime.
Do you remember how old you were when you started watching them?
So young.
Just approximately.
Got to be like 5 or 6.
Really? Okay.
So it was it's
been around then.
It was
for
in
a
the
mid-80s.
Yeah. Many more than a minute. Yeah, more than a minute. But then the Bumblebee movie, my youngest loves that movie.
Which one?
Bumblebee.
Yeah. Well, okay, hold on. Who was the voice of that?
I don't know who the voice was or is, but because he loses. It goes into how he loses his sound box and his voice box, so he can't speak anymore.
Okay.
Because he doesn't speak in how it is he doesn't speak. He uses the radio to.
Okay.
So it's his origin story.
So now, is this a animated series?
No. It was a movie that came out a few years back, maybe 2018, 17, something like that. Haley Steinfeld was the actress. She's a singer.
Okay.
So she was the main character, one of the main characters.
When you said that, the Bumblebee, and then I thought about the Bee movie.
Oh, Seinfeld?
Yes, yeah. So I don't know. Thinking of the animated series. That's why I thought. Wait a minute.
This was a live action.
I realized. Okay, moving on. Thinking about the same thing.
Bumblebee. So it's his origin story. Pretty cool story. How he became. Came down to Earth to protect. Wanted to get away and to protect Earth after that. Yeah, it's a good movie. It's actually a good movie. So I think from script wise, different than what those other Transformer movies were, where it was just all about action.
Okay.
Those live action ones where it was all about action and
what's
stuff
this
like that.
part of the Transformer?
Yeah. It's part of the Transformers. So it's a good movie. I like that.
That's kind of like the Marvel universe.
It is. It has branches out.
No, so more than the difference between Marvel and then DC. What was in the DC?
Batman.
The
Batman movie. Superman.
Was the
Batman?
Was it Hulk and Marvel?
Hulk is Marvel. Hulk is Marvel. Yeah. But I mean, you bring up DC, you think Batman for sure.
Yes, of course.
So the Dark Knight Rises.
Because it seemed like it was so close together, and I know that the comic books. I watched them as a kid.
Was DC. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wonder Woman.
That was part of DC. Correct?
Yeah. All DC. Flash.
Yes.
All those were DC.
Well, they were all sort of running simultaneously in a sense against the Marvel universe.
Yeah, there was always that kind of little, back and forth of which one's better. They all they're good. They're both different.
I watched both of them, and they were all so
good. Batman, when they rebooted Batman with Christian Bale,
yes.
I mean, that was... Those three were just.
They had several people playing Batman in various. I remember even Michael Keaton was Batman at one time, and
Keaton with
and then I think what was the other guy? George Clooney. Yes, he was Batman at one time, and so of course you had Jack Nicholson who was the Joker, and then you had
Keaton. That was Keaton Batman. Arnold Schwarzenegger was Mr. Freeze.
Yes, yeah. So
Uma Thurman. Right, Poison Ivy. Danny DeVito.
Yeah, Danny DeVito. That's who I was trying to remember.
Yeah,
he was a penguin.
He was a good penguin. Yeah, you can see that.
All of those characters. I mean, you think about that, and you could kind of watch those over because they sort of help to make that.
Exactly. So I had those and then Disney movies I have down. So my oldest son loved Moana, so we used to watch that a lot. Coco.
It was really
like 2016, 2017, 2018, something like that. Lion King. My youngest son, he's 5 now. He liked Soul. We used to watch Soul. So that was a good.
About that, Soul was. We were kind of talking about that a little bit earlier, and it was one of those movies where it was. It made you think, even though it was entertaining. I mean, I started watching the first time and I didn't get all the way through it before I had to go. And I thought I want to come back, but I wanted to watch it over so I could get again where it started from. It's a good movie.
It's a great movie. Yeah. It just says that you can get your big break, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But life is life. Great. That's what it is. You keep pushing through it. I have John Wick series.
Okay.
Keanu Reeves.
And
all of those three.
The John Wick series. How many movies are there?
3 movies.
And that.
Yeah.
Did they do another one that was going to come out or had come out? Or?
They had one that just came out.
Yeah. Is that part of the
year? It was last year or the year before?
Part of the third. Okay.
Yeah, that was part of that was the third one.
Are they going to do any more? Do you know? Oh, it was a final?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the final one. So if you watch the end of the third one, you'll see why it was the final one.
Okay.
Obviously, you can take a guess as to why, but
I think people didn't want to see the end of it.
But it's kind of left it open. Like it shows,
like it might,
like it shows that potentially he's not here anymore. But then you're like, well, maybe it's just a ruse so that he can live his life peacefully.
So now, did he phase over into this from the Matrix, or were they running simultaneously?
No, this is way after the Matrix.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Well, actually, I don't know. The last Matrix, they did another Matrix, right? Matrix Reloaded, I want to say. Was that called Reloaded?
Yeah, I know they did several.
3 years ago, maybe?
They did something like that, and I
So
don't know if I ever saw that one, but okay.
Yeah, so it might have run when they had like the remake.
So how many Matrix?
Years back.
How many Matrix movies were there?
I think they did 4, including. I think it's 4, including the one that released a few years back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it might have. I mean, he might have crossed over with a few, but obviously the characters don't cross. But it's just the actor.
Okay.
So, but yeah, those were great. I mean, shooting movies, right? Like, it's amazing.
I always remember the very first one. The first one was one that was like, while we were talking about this earlier, it caught the imagination. Mm-hmm. I think by the time I finished watching it, I wanted to find out more about it, but I also thought, what if that was real? What if what we thought or what we think is real, maybe we're plugged in somewhere?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, you're talking Matrix.
Yes, the Matrix.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're talking John Wick. I was like, wait.
No, the Matrix. Yeah. And so in that, I mean, I was kind of like thinking, well, what if that was real?
What if we're plugged in right now?
We're plugged in right here, and you are as well.
We're all plugged in.
And so we're watching this, yet we're sitting someplace waiting for them to unplug us.
Right. Just use us for food. That's what we're food to them, to the machines.
That's scary. Okay.
Oh, man. What else? I've got one that I always watch when it comes on TV that my wife hates is called Edge of Tomorrow. Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt. He relives the same day over and over.
Oh, yes, I watched that.
Yes.
Over and
love
again.
That movie.
Okay.
Yeah. It's based on I think it's a Japanese, I don't think it was a manga. I think it was a Japanese book or something like that.
Tomorrow.
Or maybe it was a graphic novel where they live the same day over and over and over, and they have to figure out the ways to defeat.
It was a little bit different.
Yep. But he has to die every time until
kind of similar to Groundhog Day.
Similar,
kind of like
that. Yeah. It's like that. It's exactly like that, right? Except it's in the
future type.
Yeah, apocalypse and guns and fun, shooting, and so I thought that was a great story. So
well, it was very mind twisting, I would think, because you kept thinking, okay, when is he going to figure a way to get past
exactly?
This,
and you think too, like he was a high-ranking officer.
Yes.
But he didn't know how to shoot a gun, right? Like he was very incapable of all that stuff until he learned from Emily Blunt's character. Every time he learned
a little bit something in that. Okay.
Yeah. So it's pretty amazing to see. I personally love that movie. So that's my list. What do you got?
Okay. I started out with Star Trek.
Okay.
And Star Trek had a series of events, movies that they had put out. And I started that because my mom used to watch back. I mean, when the series itself started back, and I'm going to say 60.
Was that TV?
It was on television,
right?
It was back in the 60, like around 60, between 66 and 68.
Okay.
And I remember her watching this, and I sat down and watched it with her and asking, what is this? Because again, it was sci-fi, but and she watched it. It was kind of interesting because, as I had mentioned, I thought more than likely, something my dad would have been watching, but she was watching it, and I got hooked into it. And then Spock was the strange-looking guy with the pointed ears and his hand like that.
Yeah.
And I'd been watching and been a fan of Star Trek ever since.
Wow, that's great.
And still am now, even with the latest movies that they got coming out.
So my mom was the same. She was a Trekkie. She was a Trekkie.
Does she still like the...
I think so.
Okay.
I think she likes the old ones, right?
Okay.
She's not into the new ones. With the original cast.
Did she watch the series, or did she
watched the series first?
The movies?
And the movies. She watched the movies after that. And then I remember, because I knew she was a huge fan of Star Trek, and I was, we did I think it was our 4th grade trip up the coast in California. And I saw a Star Trek poster with the original cast. It wasn't the new, the next generation. It was like William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and who's the other guy?
I was trying to think. Gosh,
was he the Doctor?
Doctor.
Yeah, the Doctor. And then was it the first mate? It was a female.
Talking about Uhura or
I think that's the one.
I was trying Nichelle.
Okay. Yeah. So that was her. So she was on that too.
Okay.
So I think it was either 4 or 5 of them.
Okay.
Posted, but I bought that for my mom.
Did you get it framed? Is it framed?
I think it is. I don't know. I'm assuming she still has it.
Well, okay. I got to ask you this then, because some years ago, in somewhere in Las Vegas, and I don't know if they still have it or not, but it allowed you at one of the casinos or someplace, they had where you could go on board the
Enterprise?
Yeah, the Enterprise, and actually be on the deck on the deck. Yes.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And I thought it was so cool. I had to do it.
You did it?
I did.
You get pictures and everything.
Well, no, I didn't. It allowed you sort of to walk through and be on the deck.
Cool.
It was cool. And I thought, and this was years ago, and I thought, I don't know if they still have that or not, but
I don't know.
That was.
I don't know.
I would have loved. Yeah, I would have loved just to stay there for a while.
Yeah.
It felt like you were suddenly on the Enterprise.
That's really neat.
So it was really kind of an interesting feeling after watching it all those years and growing up with it. But that was sort of, and they have a series of movies that came out.
Yeah,
from with the original, they had the original guys on, and then it kind of veered off to the middle where the next generation came on with Picard.
Yep, Picard.
Else. And
Data. That's the only one.
But see, Data then became sort of this artificial android type, with a human sort of features and everything like that. Yeah. So that sort of elevated it and took sort of the context of Spock, because Spock was sort of this guy that was, you almost felt like he was artificial in a way compared to, like he was a computer.
Yeah, he was a computer.
Then they brought in Chris Pine, which actually became the young Captain Kirk, then aboard the Enterprise. And so I've been waiting to see whether or not they were going to come out with another movie. In
3 of those.
Yes, I know, but they haven't done some in the wild. And I think that was sort of one of the things too. But the original creator, they always sort of brought him in. And actually, I think I saw something back where when he passed away, they put his ashes aboard one of the, that they did. I thought I read something like that. And I thought, he should be, because he was way ahead of his time. Even back in '68, he was showing how diversity was going to be in the future.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes,
you don't think about that.
You in '68, we were having the civil rights stuff that was going on and all the division. Yeah. He was looking that way into the future, and he was showing how we had passed all that stuff. I wished it was really now. But we're in the 21st century, but we're still dealing with that. And so I'm thinking, well, it must be further down the line somewhere.
Yeah, we'll see.
Anyways,
but Star Trek 2 is one of those like series or universes that you can branch off, because I know they've done a lot of TV as well. They're still doing TV stuff, right?
They've got Discovery. They have. I followed all of those.
The new one, Michelle Yeoh's in one.
Yeah, she's now the latest one. Yes, and
so that still keeps going.
And Gene Roddenberry was the original creator of it, and that's what I was talking about in the very beginning.
So it keeps going like Star Wars.
Yes,
like Star Wars has so many. It's the same thing
for over 50, 60 years now. And you think about the longevity of that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So
cool.
That was one that, and then I wanted to mention La Bamba. I don't know if you remember that one or
Richie Valens.
It was back when it came out. It was considered a sleeper movie after some. They kind of thought it was going to be a sleeper movie, and it actually performed much better than they were expecting. And I think because, you had these icons of the rock and roll era that were on. Buddy Holly was the name that I was trying to. He was aboard, and it was.
That's right.
I think it was kind of built around what Richie Valens, the music that he and his influence on rock and roll, and being that he was a Hispanic from the Central Valley, and then how his life was cut short, and yet he was with the big time rock and roll that was never really featured very much, but the music was played, and everybody knew the song, and so the music was great in the movie. Lou Diamond Phillips, who played Richie Valens, was really. I was trying to remember his brother's name. He's still a very good actor today, and I just remember in the theater when they thought it was going to be the sleeper movie. It actually was a very emotional movie. Yeah, and a lot of people started to flock to see the La Bamba. because it really, I think it struck a note that everybody could sort of identify with. And I really enjoyed the movie. I've seen it, I don't know how many times, and still enjoy the movie, even though I've seen it that many times.
Yeah, gotcha.
The next movie that I was going to mention is Apollo 13.
Okay.
Do you remember that movie?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't
Tom
think
Hanks?
saw it in the theaters, but
okay.
I'm not
sure if I saw it in the theaters, but I remember years ago seeing that. And it was just, amazing. But what was interesting about that is I remember as a kid when this event happened, and I remember seemingly like the world was watching, and I remember there was a guy, I think Howard K. Smith, I think he was an anchor or a news reporter, but my parents were watching this, and it was one of those events that even during the civil rights movement and how divided the nation was between blacks and whites and everything, everybody was glued to this moment and praying for these men that were out here potentially going to be stranded in space forever, for them to return. And when they returned, it was such a dynamic moment that as a kid, I didn't fully understand the magnitude of it until I really got older and then saw this movie that really, like, thinking, oh my God, I didn't realize what was at stake at that time. But I do remember my parents watching the television and my mom really wondering if these guys were going to make it back, and everybody sort of praying for their return. And then when you saw what the nation was, I'm thinking, wow. So that was one of those movies. They made it back. And that was what the thing was, is that when they splashed down, you could feel the energy, and everybody was just like, wow.
Yeah. Well, Tom Hanks had a great run of consecutive movies.
I remember Tom Hanks in what was it? He was in the first movie that I remember him in, Big.
That's right. I remember that too. When I was a kid.
And I thought, he did such a great job in that movie.
He played chopstick on a piano with his feet. That's all I remember.
You remember that movie?
I remember.
But he's been in a series of different movies. I think you mentioned one that I was going to say that everybody, Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yes.
A crazy good movie.
It was just incredible.
Amazing.
Movie. And it was at the time when we were almost paralyzed by the fact of HIV.
Yeah. AIDS.
It was like, it was like one of those terminal moments where it's like, if you got it or if you were infected by it,
you're dead.
You're dead. Was just a countdown to dead. Yeah. And so Denzel Washington was in that movie together with both of them, and just the energy was just amazing. And the fact that, Tom Hanks had really gotten into the part, and Denzel was in that.
Doing Denzel things, always amazing.
Like, wow. So you could watch that movie again and still, and it was one of those too where the emotion was very high in that too. So,
well, just thinking of another Denzel, and I think you mentioned this one. Was this Glory?
Oh, yes, Glory.
I was in 8th grade.
Okay.
So not in the theaters, but it was part of our history lesson. For eighth grade class, they put that movie on.
Oh, wow.
Right? They wheeled it in the TV and they put it on. They're like, watch it. It's a good movie. You don't understand it. Yeah. I'm 13. Okay. And then, you see the very end. I still remember the scene at the very end.
Okay.
Where, they show the bodies falling down into the ditch. You see Denzel's body flying down. You see Matthew Broderick's body flying down, right? White, black, doesn't matter who it is. They're just all flying down. And then they are shoeless, right? Because they took the shoes off so they can use them, right? But then you see that doesn't matter who you are. You're going to end up in the ground.
Well, the thing about that, and that's based on a real story, real events.
Exactly.
It was in the archives in Harvard that was never really told in the history books. That this all-black regiment that basically was in this battle, and it was either like do or die,
right?
And they were if they did it, they were fighting for their freedom,
right?
And if they didn't, they were going to die anyway. So either way, they were sort of like they kind of led this march up into this battle zone, and Matthew Broderick's character was one that was actually the one that took on this challenge to actually lead these men into this battle scene. And they knew that when they did so, they were not going to return. They knew that was it. But they were part of this regiment that was historically written about in the books, but never written about in the history books that we ever knew about, especially as young black kids. in growing up here in the U.S.
But that was an amazing movie.
Anyway, that's a great movie.
Yeah,
I guess our time now, you know, it's going to be up there. We've got a list of others, so we want to have another part.
We're going to have a part 3. We're going to have a part 3, but I think we're going to base it on a little something different.
Okay, so
but it'll be a fun discussion.
Right, we're going to do that. So anyway, thank you for joining us here on the Lew experience.
Perspective.
Experience.
Yeah. Oh, both.
You know. So what are we going to talk about? As we close out, we always ask that you do an act of kindness of some sort. Whether it is just a simple hello to someone.
Yeah.
You know?
Hold the door open, a thank you, or you're welcome.
Yeah. You know, I did that the other day. I think it was some lady that was walking in the store, and my wife had walked in, and so she was right behind, and I stopped and let her in the door. And
nice.
I think it's kind of surprised her. And she's, oh, thank you. And you know, and it's kind of one of those things where people don't really necessarily think about it until all of a sudden, you know, it happens, and then I was like, "Oh, that was nice," you know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
like that.
An act of kindness. We ask you to do that.
Yes, every time, and then also follow us on social. Let's see, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and
Instagram.
Oh,
I thought he had it.
That's not luck.
I said he's got
one
it.
more, but that's always happens.
Anyway, we'll see you next time.
See ya. Thanks. Bye.